Good afternoon, dear listeners. Welcome to Enlighten South Sudan TV station. Today in the studio, we have our brother who is contesting for the post of the President of South Sudan Student Association in Rwanda. You're most welcome to the studio. And today we are going to have a discussion about your objectives, and we want to know more about your plans if you are to become the President of South Sudan Students Association in Rwanda. So my dear brother, you're most welcome to the studio and we are glad to have you. Start our discussion. Let our brother first introduce himself to us.
Okay, in my first place, I would like to say thank you to the Enlighten South Sudan TV for hosting me today. It's really a great honor, and I really appreciate inviting me today to make interviewing me. So I by name Saleh Mohammed, also known by another name Emmanuel. I am one of the candidates who are running for presidency, and I'm really so glad to be here today, having discussion with our sister here. So I'm really glad to be with you guys.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you so much for the brief introduction. So today in our studio we have a few number of questions to ask you. As the upcoming president, as the upcoming president of South Sudan Student Association in Rwanda, my first question will be, what inspired you to run for the position of the president in the student association?
Well, really, yes, South Sudanese here in Rwanda, really having a lot, and in order to run for this post of association. And first of all, before answering your question, you must understand that an association is something that works for the best interest, the common interest of its members. So we are students associations, and most of my aims are based on students' affairs and what is affecting students personally, and what are the challenges we as students South Sudanese here in Rwanda are facing. So I have in my manifesto able to come up with almost 7 strategies or 7 major points of my manifesto.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sally, for that answer. So we are going to our next question. The next question states, how do you plan to address the current challenges faced by the student body?
Actually, currently we are facing a lot of challenges as a student. As I've said before, we as a student we encounter a lot of problems because we're students from academics. Sometimes we encounter problems socially in the areas that we are. Let me just say specifically, being a student, you know that we are being here, we rent houses. These are some of the problems that maybe some of us encounter, like the school fees is not in time, and maybe your money for renting didn't come in time. But I have a financial structure. In this financial structure is whereby I'm going to make sure that in my leadership, all these current problems are well addressed.
That's very good. So thank you so much. So we are now going to our third question. So the third question states, what specific initiatives do you have in mind to enhance the overall student experience?
As I said from the first question, it seems like connected to the third question. I said that I have 7 main objectives or main reasons that lets me to run for the presidency. The first of all is, as I've said, we are a student here. The first major aim is representation of our common interest as an association. Remember, we are association and we have a common interest, and that's the education. We are being sent back from home. All the aim our parents is aiming is that after 3 years, 4 years, we really achieve something, and that's the degree and that's the certificate that we are saying. And that's the common objective that we all share. So what do I mean by representation? I actually mean that being a student, we have a lot of issues that really need to be addressed by a certain or a certain part of us, which is responsible for us all as a South Sudanese here. So when I say representation, I actually means that the problems that we have, that we encounter, especially from academic Sometimes maybe we can encounter problems in family, problems at homes, things are not going well. For example, if I said before, you may encounter problems with the landlord. Maybe he's not able to solve your other problems with the landlord. Financial problem with landlord. So it is my role as an association to make sure that such kind of problems are really represented, are really being addressed, are really being have a solution for that. So this is what I mean by representing our common interests that we have. Second thing, when I say the representation also, I do mean by from academics, our main objective also is here as education. I have to ensure or to make sure that as being a leader of the association, that we all achieve the common objective that we are here for. And that's our education, to make sure that we all have what the university require us to have. And each and every university require from each student is what? Is passing. Let them pass, let them have a passing mark, let them have a good grade, and all this. And I have several ways I can do that. One of the ways is making sure that we have a departmental representative in every university. For example, in ULK here, we should have a representative in each and every department, maybe in Department of Law, Department of IR, EBS, and all the departments. The same thing also to those of UK, we may have that. The same thing to those of INES, we must have a representative in each and every department. So those representatives, their work is to make sure they do follow up. Maybe some student may encounter problems there. I personally am here, and they are there in INES. So I personally cannot reach to understand those problems. But the nearest person that they can be able to address their issue to, and that issue could be solved, is the representative. So this is what I mean by representation of our common interests or needs as a student here in Rwanda. Okay, the second thing is also about leadership development. We know that we all students here, we are here for studies, but we are all having a different career that we are here for. Also, others are studying law, others studying EBS, others studying construction, different. So when I say leadership development, I don't mean to develop us all to become leaders in politics and all this stuff. I don't mean that. I mean actually that I need to make sure that all of us South Sudanese who are here, we are expert in the field that we are in. And that's true. We know that today Rwanda have a lot of chances. There are a lot of conferences coming in, there are a lot of trainings and all this. So I have to make sure in my leadership, I work on finding ways and means to make sure that in every chance that we as the association have, to make sure that all of us, or let me say like 50% of us or 20% of us, they attend those conferences. For example, like FinTech, the East Africa Digital Innovation. So these are the conferences that normally comes, but when you look at our number there, they're very, very few. Yeah, so I have to make sure that we develop our different career and being leadership in all departments that we have or in all the career that we have. Also, the third thing is community development and legal framework. Our community here in South Sudan, or South Sudanese here in Rwanda, so I have to make sure that in my leadership, we need to have a community that is being regulated. You know, as South Sudanese very well, sometimes we have a lot of issues, a lot of problems, but human being is human being, always needs something to regulate him or her in order for the things to go right. So I need to make sure that our community in Rwanda here, the South Sudanese community, first of all, is a united community. The second thing is the community whereby each and every South Sudan feel really they love each other and they work together, they do everything together. And we can do that through having a legal framework. We must have rules that guide our community as a South Sudanese community here in Rwanda. And that's also one of the major and the most important thing. I have to make sure that our community have rules, because our numbers are increasing every day, you know that. So we have to make sure that whenever we have our brothers coming, we need to make sure that they abide by the rules of our community as a South Sudanese, because in case of anything happens, So that could be also another way we can tackle that. Yeah. So the fourth thing is the cooperation among us as a student. Being a student, always you need cooperation, because some of the things might not be achievable when you are alone, but it will be much more better when always people works together. And that's I need to make sure that we all South Sudanese here in Rwanda, we have a cooperation among ourselves in terms of our studies. We're really cooperating hand in hand and making sure that we all go ahead together. Because our major aim, as I've said before, is that after 3 years, 4 years, our parents need us that we should have a degree, or being a graduate, or being someone that could be able to help our community. So I have to make sure that we have cooperation among ourselves as a South Sudanese. And that cooperation will also fall in that part that I've explained concerning about departmental representative. So this is one of the major ways of how we can achieve that cooperation among us as a student here in Rwanda, because cooperation always, as I've said, is always will lead us to achieve our common objectives, and also will lead also some of our brothers that are also a little bit weak, a little bit, not that, but when people work together, things become better. Yeah. So I need to make sure that all of us South Sudanese here, wherever we are, in Ines, in UK, in Alu, Mount Kenya, that all of our South Sudanese students, they are really working hand in hand to achieve the common objective that we are here for, and that is the educations that we came for. And the fifth thing, fifth thing is, is a constitution amendment. Our constitution of South Sudanese Student Association is 100% is okay, but we need to add some of the things to that constitution in order to ensure that, because today we are having a lot of problems. Some of our brothers who are in province, sometimes they do feel like they're excluded from the associations. It seems like we those who are in Kigali, we run things and all this stuff. So we need to make sure that we need to bring a good system of association. And to bring a good system of association, you have to make sure that the constitution, because the constitution is the basic that rules and that regulates everything in case of country, in case of anything. So an association must have a good system. And when I say constitution amendment, I was meaning that we should have a good system of association, a good system that favor each and every one of us, a good system that provide equality in the association, a good system that provide transparency in the association. We don't want like this case of like, saying like, association people, these of association, things are not going well. We've been hearing this, we've been hearing there is something going on. No, we need to ensure that we have a system, and in that system, it ensure equality, transparency in our association. Remember, our numbers are every day increasing. Sudan now is at war. Rwanda became the only home that we have as a South Sudan. So our brothers are coming. If we fail to have a good system of the association, and the system that always keep us to be united, the system that always keep us to pressuring us toward our goals and objective, so could be a problem. So our main objective is focusing on building that or adding amendment to our constitution, whereby it can ensure a good system of a good system of association that include us to work together hand in hand for our betterness here in Rwanda. So let me say the sixth thing is about how do you call? Let me say cultural, increasing our cultural practices or our cultures. We need to make sure that we South Sudanese, we are proud, and that's what makes us as South Sudanese, our different cultures, different tribes, and that's what shape our country today to be one of the countries that are mixed with different cultures. Also, cultures is a part of our identity. Even our constitution of the South Sudanese Student Association here says that we must keep on, bringing up things that let us always to stick on our culture. So some of us here, students here, maybe they don't know how to talk even their language. Have you seen that? So we need to make sure that we make programs, we bring up occasions that always remind us of that our culture is very important. Yeah. because we are now in a modernized culture. The Western culture is now influencing our current our cultures as Africans, and seems like it is trying to eradicate our culture. So how can we do that? By making sure that we always do practices, do occasional things that always remind us of our culture.
Thank you so much for the brief, short, and interesting answers. So let's go for a short break. We'll be back after the break. Thank you. Welcome back from the break. So let's continue with our discussion. The question, which is, last but not least, in your opinion, what are the main concerns or issues currently facing students that the association should focus on?
Sincerely speaking, we're having some of the problems we faced. For example, as I've said from beginning, these are some of the problems that usually come. Back home there, parents struggle a lot. Sometimes they didn't get money in time. So these are the main problems that we really as a student, because in foreign country, and that's a little bit one of the major problems that we encounter here. These are some of the problems that we do encounter. Because parents struggle back home. Sometimes things doesn't come in time. So these are some of the things we need to make sure as an association we are able to fulfill these problems that we have. Some of these problems is sometimes academical issues with the university that they are in. Sometimes, like our brothers in Ines, recently I heard that the money for insurance is a little bit bigger. Amount of the money for insurance. This association also to go and to try to sit with them to negotiate if it is possible to be reduced. Is okay. Also, one of the also problem is we all humans. We live in an environment whereby sometimes we do mistakes, we do things. For example, other behaviors that are not allowed. So I need to make sure that these behaviors or these are some of the problems that we normally have. As students, because we're humans, we can encounter this problem. These are some of the problems we have, and I need to make sure that all these problems are solved. Coming back to academical issues, sometimes their marks are not there in MIS, and this problem can be usually done by departmental representative. So these are some of the problems that we have settled our strategies of how it can be tackled.
Okay, so you were saying as in there are some misbehaviors from students and so on. Okay, let's assume a student from, Yelka, from University of Rwanda, those universities. Let's assume that one of them, they have misbehaved in the school or in the area. As in, what solutions? Let me say they have misbehaved and they have been taken to the station, and as in what step or what will you do in order to convince? Because this security people from Rwanda, it's not easy for them to be convinced. So as in, what will you do?
Honestly, that these are some of the issues that I've been talking to, and there are several ways we can be able to solve these issues. First of all, that that the Rwanda is not a country that tolerating such kind of behavior, and let me say that by solving this problem is, first of all, is like we must have an orientation usually to our new students who are coming. So these are one of the ways we can be able to solve this problem. Our new brothers who are coming, like in UK, in Ines, we must always have a ceremonial orientation ceremony whereby we orient to them how the environment of Rwanda, how are you going to live in this country and all this. But in case that one of us have done that issue, we must follow the procedures that is there, and we should find that concerned part or department, and we should make sure that we try to talk and solve the issue, because we are all humans. We should do problems, and we can be able how to solve that. Don't always forget that someone who is your brother, you will not ignore your brother, no matter your brother does something like what. He's from your blood, the same blood, same skin. So I cannot reject him. I cannot say bad thing against him. I have to make sure, because I am here in this leadership by them, through them, and for them. So I have to make sure that really this problem is solved by all means and all effort that I have. I have to make sure I solve the issues.
Well, thank you so much. So I like that's a very good step. I'm sure if anyone was in your position, that person will do the same. Just sometimes, things don't go as we plan. That's one of the obstacles we human beings face in life. As in what we plan sometimes won't happen. So we should not expect anything that we plan for happen. So thank you very much.
Okay.
The next question states, what qualities and experiences do you possess that makes you an ideal candidate for the role of the president?
Surely, that's a good question. I love that. For me personally, my CV is, first of all, leadership is not something new for me. That's each and everyone should know. So, since I was 14 years of age, I was able to hold a position of being a leader where you have an opposition, spiritual and physically. So this is, I'm telling you, leadership is not something new to us. So I've been a leader in a church. I've led an evangelism group into the level of archdeaconry. You came from diocese, direct what? To archdeaconry. So I was the evangelist leadership of the archdeaconry of almost 7 churches. So the other thing also I can say that I have been working as a teacher for almost 3 years. After I finished my secondary school certificate, I went for training for almost 1 year, training to be a teacher. And I've taught almost 3 years, 2 years and a half, almost 3 years. So concerning about the affairs of the students, the behaviors and all this, so that's why sometimes you hear them, some of my friends and colleagues, they used to call me Ustaz. So this is where I got the title from. So I've worked being a teacher for almost 3 years. So, and I've some of the problems of a student is now flexible with me. I know how we can solve it, we put them right, what really student needs as all of us as a student here.
Wow, that's a very good one. So, they normally say without God we are nothing. So one of the qualities of a good leader, I'm sure they taught you maybe in secondary, primary, or let me say it, one of the qualities of a good leader, he or she should be God-fearing. And I'm sure he has that example. So thank you so much, Mr. Mr. Salah. And we are happy to see to have you here in our studio. And I wish you all the best. And be assured, you have my vote, and also for the rest of the people that are listening. So thank you very much, my dear listeners.